Record there. Record there. Okay. We live right now. This is another podcast I'm doing. This one, I think it's going to be a little different. We are recording. We're actually going to take these headphones off. We're going to see how well we do. Okay. It's kind of weird. We actually get an interface that actually works, but I can watch my levels right there. But I just want to come on here to talk to you about something that I think isn't that interesting, but but you can take a different perspective on it when you go about analyzing it for what it is. Okay, what we're talking about is cupping protocol. I don't know if this video is going to come out first before the cupping rant, but here's the thing: I don't care for cupping. I really don't. I think it's archaic. I think it's used for reasons that do make sense, especially in the field when you are, so to speak, when you're at origin and there's limited amount of resources, and the easiest way for you to actually taste coffee is to cup coffee. I can understand that when you do it, it's a quick and easy way for you to analyze the coffee. However, the reason why I don't care for it is because that's not the way people drink coffee. A lot of times, what cupping does is that it's like drinking a French press. And I don't like drinking French presses because it's hard for me personally to really taste what I'm tasting in the coffee. A lot of times it's muddy, and sometimes it seems like it's underdeveloped, even if you agitate it as much as you think that you should. So that's my gripe with it. However, we're talking about you. We're not talking about me. The thing about cupping, put this up here. There we go. The thing about cupping, for instance, in this case, is that, there we go, is there are some things that are really cool about it that I do want to talk about, mainly about how they score it. So we're going to talk about the attributes that either a green coffee buyer will analyze the coffee and to give it a score. Normally scores are between 82, 83, and up to like 91, 92. Nobody really gets 100, It's very hard for that to happen. So, got my trusty iPad over here off screen. But yeah, so again, like I said, I hope all is well with you. And this is going to be a little bit different. This is like a podcast, but I wanted to make it a little bit more interactive. So we're going to see how well it works, and then we'll go from there. We may do other things like this, but I think it's easier to talk about what I'm trying to say to you and not so much of a YouTube type of chopped up type of way, if that makes any sense. I mean, there'll probably be a little bit of cuts here and there, but for the most part, this is what it is. I'm seeing if I can get back to some of that stuff that people did enjoy and like. But again, this is about you, giving you value. In the way that I think, even if I don't care for something, even though I don't care for something, I do understand it. And I want to show you or prove to you or give you reasons why it's important to you. So the thing about cupping is that a lot of times roasters don't really put that stuff on the bag. They may take some of the information that they do get from an importer. They may even use some of that information from an importer, like the smell, the taste, and all that good stuff. But they don't really tell you the score, But however, these are some of the things that you can ask the roaster when it comes to the coffee that you're about to buy for whatever reason. So, with that being said, here are the attributes, the things that they usually score coffee on: fragrance and aroma. And we'll go more in detail as we go back to them individually: flavor, aftertaste, acidity, body, balance, sweetness, clean cup, uniformity, and then overall. That makes sense. And defects, which is taken out. So you score everything, but if it has any defects, you minus that out because it's not supposed to have any defects in there. Okay. Okay. Defects are then subtracted from the total score to arrive at a final score. Okay. So total score is not overall. Okay. So 70 and 74, fair. Average quality, good is 75 between 75 and 79. It's good. 80 to 84 is very good, classified as premium. Excellent is 85 to 89 is specialty. And then 90, 94, outstanding premium specialty, super premium specialty if it's at 100. Most coffees that I've been tasting, they have been like at supposedly at about 88, 87. So a lot of times they like to say they're at 85 to say that it is specialty. But again, that is subjective. No matter what somebody says with coffee, a lot of times it's subjective. However, let's not discredit the professionals that do this each and every day. They are the ones who cup, taste coffee all the time. I always kind of look at it as a barista. Like I am a really good home barista. I can probably compete. Not really, but you know what I'm saying. However, when you notice what a barista does is that they are, what are they doing? They're brewing coffee every day, either espresso or batch brewing or whatever. They're not necessarily tasting it, but they're brewing coffee every day. So the amount of reps that they're getting in is like not even comparable to what I do on a daily basis. I probably brew coffee once, twice a day, and that's it. They probably do 1, 2 cups in a couple of minutes because they're always getting people in. So with same thing with this green buyer, tasting person, whatever that's in the industry. Either they work for a roastery, they work for a cafe. They're always constantly tasting that coffee that comes out, either from the night before roast. They probably wait a couple of days before they actually taste it. They probably tasted a couple of different steps. But let's not let me not discredit what they do because they do this every day. They can analyze coffees very quickly. However, how is that really important to you? Do they pick the best coffees? Sure. However, a lot of times what people don't realize is that as they pick these coffees, they don't really think about, I mean, they probably don't really think about, but the business owner is thinking about like what is going to be the best application for this coffee for this particular customer. You know, the customer could be somebody who comes in all the time at a cafe, and then it could be somebody else that yeah, what the fuck? Oh, my cords. I'll worry about that later. Who's somebody who drinks this coffee in their pour over or their automatic drip machine. They have to think about those type of things. You want to try to match, give people a reason why they are doing what they're doing, so to speak, if that makes sense. So they have to think about, okay, even though this coffee is fantastic as a score, how will somebody actually drink this? For instance, I have a Brazilian coffee. I think it's fantastic. But for the most part, most Brazilians really work really well with most people, meaning that if you're going to be drinking your coffee as a milk beverage drink, it works really well. As a black coffee, it can work too. However, at times, you don't want to drink that all the time because after a while, you're like, get tired of it being black. So then that's when you have your Colombians, your African coffees, so to speak. And then those are coffees that usually come in a little bit later, sometimes as espresso. They have to think about all these things and how much they bought the coffee for, how much they can sell it for. So even though they may have cupped it, scored it really well, how does that really translate into the end user? You, if they bought a coffee, it was, let's say it was grown and harvested correctly, tasted just as good as it did last year, and they brought that coffee, then the thing about it is that you are you're still beholden to Yeah, you're still beholden to your customers. Probably some of them did get that coffee. Probably some of them didn't. But at the end of the day, one of the things that we have to realize is that you, the customer, the people who are viewing this, is that you're the ultimate ones who truly, really care about the coffee, I think. And if you don't care about it this time or last time, then you're not going to buy it. So that roaster isn't going to really buy it anymore either. Because at the end of the day, even if this African Ethiopian coffee is amazing, or this Kenyan coffee is like so whiny than it was, so much more whiny than it was the past 5 or 6 years. If you don't like that, if you don't have a palate for it and you don't want to keep drinking it, you're not going to drink it. And the beauty of coffee or anything in general is that I don't have a gun to your head to make you buy it. I would love for you to buy it based off my descriptions of what I think that this coffee is, what it will present to you, and how you will probably enjoy it in the maker that you use. So those are the things, those are the avenues, those are the things that we have to like think about and wonder about and always constantly like test and gauge. And of course, the magic comes a little bit in the roasting. However, the coffee tastes what it tastes like, just like a person. I have 2 kids, girl, boy. They came out, yeah, they are my kids and all that. However, they are their own people. They operate and do things differently. So, same thing with coffee. It's grown. After it's grown, it's harvested, processed, stored. And then, yes, a roaster is extremely important. However, for the most part, roasters have a decent baseline, meaning that we are essentially doing the exact same thing. Profiles and way that we have our own little protocols, that's totally different. That's more unique to that roaster. However, if that coffee tastes more so like it tastes, then that's what that roaster is going to get out of that coffee. But here's the thing, how you can set yourself apart if you are a roaster, if you care about this, is that you get these coffees that you're the only one who can have this coffee. Because there's a lot of times when you're dealing with importers, is that they have a lot of coffee. And as they have a lot of coffee, they're able to reach a lot more people to buy the coffee. So when that happens, depending on how the roasters go about their business, you could be tasting the exact same coffee from this roaster, but they probably name it something totally different. I'm getting a little off topic here, but you understand what I'm saying. We have to think about the whole logistics, the games, not so much games, but the game that we're in when we come to actually buying and enjoying coffee for what it is. So, like I said, I don't care for cupping because most of the time the protocol is to me inaccurate. You're essentially drinking a cold French press. That's really what you're doing. And most people don't drink French press cold. Most people don't drink coffee cold. I like as the coffee changes, it gets more exciting to an extent depending on the coffee. However, most people don't do that. So we have to realize that people are people and that they're going to drink it hot. They're going to drink it warm at most. And we have to take that in consideration too. Okay. But besides the point, let's go ahead and look at each of the protocols, and then I will let you know, to me, what's really important to you. And these are some of the questions that you can probably ask your roasters about the coffee that you buy from them. Okay, fragrance and aroma. The aromatic aspects includes fragrance, defined as the smell of ground coffee when it's still dry, and aroma, the smell of coffee when infused with hot water. Okay, how important is fragrance and aroma in coffee? I think overall it's extremely important. To me, coffee does smell better than it tastes. So with that being said, especially when it's a specialty coffee, smell doesn't matter. Smell doesn't matter, meaning that they're going to all smell good for the most part. Most coffees smell good. Either some are more fruity than others, some are more chocolatey, nutty notes, toffee or whatever. I don't want to go too crazy with all these crazy identifiers. If you can really taste that, great. But for the most part, coffee smell is a little bit more distinctive. You can really kind of pick out what you're smelling. But for the most part, coffee smells great. Even a shitty cup of coffee that's been there for a long time smells okay. It doesn't really smell off-putting, you know. Sometimes you can get a funky like a Sumatra that's like a melon type of smell, but other than that, that's still very pleasant. Some people do like melons, some people don't. But again, when you do the cupping thing and protocol, you have to be as objective as possible. You have to like look at the coffee for what it is, not so much like what you like out of that coffee. You're just basically judging it on what it is in front of you. Okay. So fragrance and aroma, I don't think that's important. I actually really don't. So, um, so yeah, so flavor represents the coffee's principal character, the mid-range notes in between the first impression given by the coffee's first aroma, acidity to its final aftertaste. Flavor is to me the most important thing. It's what you're tasting. What do you like about that actual cup? It says the score given for flavor should account for the intensity, quality, complexity of its combined taste and aroma experience when the coffee is slurped into the mouth vigorously, blah, 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 blah. So if you want to slurp, you can slurp. If you want to do like the whole wine thing, slurping and all that stuff, you can. Just taste the coffee. What does it really taste like? Ask the roaster, what is the flavors? What are you tasting? Why do you like about it? What applications do you actually drink this coffee at? Just ask a couple things. They'll tell you some of the notes. Some of them are pretentious bullshit and all that good stuff, right? But still take it with a grain of salt because that person has tasted the coffee and you haven't. So that's that person's advantage. But once you get that information, you can still make the judgment call of like, do I want to taste that this time, this week, this 2 weeks, this for a couple of days? Okay, flavor is really everything. If you like a fruity coffee, if they start giving you notes like that, okay, entertain it if that's what you want. If you want more of a chocolate type of coffee that's really good for espresso, go for it. You know, you have milk-based drinks, you just probably drink espresso straight up. That's cool too. The beauty about all of this is that you are in control at the end of the day. You are. Think about it. I mean, at the end of the day, I want you to buy my coffee so I can sustain this business. You want to buy this coffee because you want the pleasure that it will present for you for that time and moment. So that's the thing. And if you don't like what you hear about that coffee, then you can make the judgment and say, no, I don't want it. Or you can just see if they have it on tap and have a cup of coffee and see if you actually like it. Those are some of the things that you can work on and do if they have that option for you. But for the most part, they don't. They say, here's the bag of coffee. We roasted it a couple of days, weeks ago, blah, 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 blah. You like it? This is what I told you it is. And then you go from there. So aftertaste. Aftertaste is extremely important to me. And that can be very subjective. I've always talked about that. I don't like the aftertaste of most coffees that taste like grapefruit. Because when people say grapefruit, they mean the grapefruit with the rind on it. Grapefruit is probably one of the most versatile, more balanced type of fruit. It has sweetness, it has acidity, and the way that it comes in and out is just quite magical. And the real aftertaste of grapefruit is pleasant. However, if you taste grapefruit on the rind, to me, it tastes like crap. It just keeps lingering. It's like somebody put like a lemon on your tongue and you're like constantly like, trying to get rid of it. But you can't really get rid of it just because it just lingers. It just stays on your tongue. Sometimes there's aftertaste that where you like you taste it and it's gone. Taste it and it's gone. Sometimes those can be good. You do want it to linger just a little bit longer. But I think sometimes what that does, at least for me, is that once it's gone, I want to drink more of it. Once it's gone again, I want to drink more of it. So it's kind of subjective, but you want something that kind of lingers, but not too long, but it can't be offensive. So think about that when you actually drink your coffee, how it is on your tongue, how long it stays. So those are the two things so far. Acidity. Acidity can be a very touchy type of topic. A lot of times, if the coffee is roasted too light, it can be too acidic. It can be too out there. something that somebody doesn't really expect. A lot of times, it seems like it's interesting in the specialty world is like before non-specialty is always it was always about the dark roast. I want to feel it. I want to taste it. And now in this case, this new age type of third wave, fourth wave, whatever the way we are in, is that the acidic the coffee, the more better it is. It's kind of weird, but again, those are some of the things that we are trying to think about and understand from your point of view. Is like, what do you really care about? Do you like acidity in a coffee? The the true thing about acidity, especially to me, is that acidity allows you to have some type of balance in a coffee, because if you just have sweetness, it's one notey. If you just have acidity, it's one notey. So acidity allows you to start to kind of like bend it as a curve. So you know that you're going to be tasting a lot of different things. That starts the complexity of what you're tasting in coffee. If it's just one notey type of situation, then you tend to like drink it, probably enjoy it for that initial time, but you probably won't come back to it. You probably want to try to mix it with something else. So acidity is extremely important. It's the brightness, sour, or they say sour when unflavored, flavorful. Yeah, because when you understract, that's another story for another day. But how is the acidity on your tongue? How does that feel? Is it too bright? Is it dull? Is it barely there, like an apple crisp? Apple, not like a Granny Smith. That can also be some type of form of acidity. Those are some of the things that we're really trying to understand when we drink that coffee. And yes, that person may tell you the type of acidity, but at the end of the day, once you taste it, you'll understand where you're at. And it's all about understanding your roaster, understanding what they're saying, but also trusting and believing in yourself when it comes to tasting coffee. I'm not talking about cupping coffee. I'm talking about tasting coffee as you're sitting down on a chill day. You're tasting coffee. Okay. So acidity, body, body is how tactile feeling, liquid in the mouth, especially as it's perceived between the tongue and the roof of the mouth. So how sticky is it? How like thick is it? That's where it is. That's what acidity is. Body is. Do I think body is important? Yes and no, because you can kind of manipulate body a little bit when you're brewing to an extent. And it's not as critical or as important to me as the other things. So you can ask about the body, how thick and how heavy it is. But you can kind of manipulate the body a little bit as you use different filters. If you want to use like a thinner filter that lets more of the compounds of the coffee inside the cup, you could do it that way. Or you could just drink it like a French press or whatever, which is kind of weird. Again, they're using French press type of protocols to kind of get the body of the coffee. And a lot of times, for the most part, the body of the coffee when it comes from a French press is very like thick and heavy at times. And again, it's hard to taste it. But again, that's a rant that I've been talking about for a while. So we'll move on. So body is not that important. Balance. Balance is a lot of stuff. It's about how all these things come together, how it tastes. And again, balance isn't a 50-50 type of situation. It's how they actually gel and work together. It's like if you're at work and a shitty job when nobody's really doing anything, everybody's out of order and all that stuff. But balance in a good job is that everybody's there on time, everybody understands each other, a synergy. They really go well together. These things separately work really well, but as a combination, it really like excites you, it gets you going. So balance is extremely important, but remember, balance of what somebody thinks is totally different than another person. So again, this person has tasted the coffee. So you have to realize that when you do that, you have to take what they say with a grain of salt, but ask them about balance. How balanced is this coffee really? How does it work together with the acidity and the sweetness and the mouthfeel? I mean, don't say mouthfeel. I'm sorry. The aftertaste. How does those really gel together? Those are the things that we're really trying to get at. Okay, sweetness. Sweetness is the counterpart of acidity. Sweetness brings all the boys to the club, so to speak. Sweetness, there is sweetness in coffee. Some coffees have it a lot easier than others. And in this case, sweetness is some one of those things that it helps balance, it helps paint the picture of that painting, so to speak. If you're just like painting and you're kind of getting an idea, it's not as descriptive as it should be. It's mainly because probably there's no sweetness. Same thing with acidity. If there's just too much acidity, where's the sweetness? It's a way for it to kind of actually sculpt and change and like be present in your palate. That's what sweetness is. That's the thing about all this stuff. You're tasting something that's magical, that's can be magical. The way you brewed it, the way the coffee really is. Those are some of the things that we have to realize what we're doing as much as we can is that this is pretty cool. This is something that we're really trying to taste for what it is. Okay, so we got clean cup. Clean cup, that's I wouldn't say subjective. That's more dependent on the bean. And lately, they've been doing a lot of fermenting. So a clean cup is kind of probably hard to get out of fermented type of coffee. But most of the ones that are like cleaner cup that you can, let's read it real quick. Clean cup refers to the lack of interfering negative impressions from first ingestion to final aftertaste. A transparency of cup. So it's easy for you to decipher what it is from start to beginning when you tasting it. In evaluating this attribute, notice the total flavor experience from the time of initial ingestion to final swallowing or exportation. Any non-coffee like taste or aromas will disqualify individual cup. So there you go, clean cup. How does it taste from the beginning to the end? Does it change like drastically? Is it clean? Does it taste clean? Does it change to the point to where it's off in that realm? You know, the harmony, the symphony of the coffee. Okay, clean cup. I don't think it's that critical. I really don't, because again, that can be that can be subjective. But if you want to ask your roaster or the cafe about how clean is this cup, ask them about that. Even ask them about how it was processed. That may give you a better indication. If it was a wet process, then you'll probably be more on a cleaner cup, you know. But if it's like a natural, then you probably have to watch out for it. That doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad cup of coffee. It's just a different way to kind of look at it in the clean cup realm. Okay. Uniformity. Uniformity refers to consistently flavor of different cups of the sample tasted. Okay, you're not going to do that. You got your bag of coffee. That's something for the roaster to see if what they're tasting in different parts of the batches is consistent. They're, you're done. You just have the bag of coffee. So why would you care about that? Probably, let's say you do cup it and then it's different from this part of the bag than the other. That's a little different story. But for the most part, that's more on a bigger scale to see if there's defects and all that. You got your overall, then defects. Defects are like negative or poor flavors that detract from the quality of the coffee. A taint is an off flavor that's noticeable but not overwhelming, usually found in aromatic aspects. A taint is given to intensity. A fault is an off flavor, usually found in a taste aspect that is either overwhelming or renders the sample unpalatable, and given an intensity rating of 4. So defects must be classified as taint or fault, or a fault then describes sour, rubbery, ferment. Again, those are extremely key indicators. However, the thing about it is that it's those can be extremely subjective. So the defects are what they are, right? But at the end of the day, it's one of those things that you have to take in consideration. So if you want to, you can ask your roaster or cafes, like, what are the defects? Probably not so much the cafe. They're just trying to sling the coffee out and get it out. If they have a bag, you can buy a bag. But defects is kind of one of those things that, for the most part, they've already taken care of that, or they are able to manipulate that in the roast to kind of hide that sometimes, because not everything's perfect. Even if it is a 85 or 83 or whatever type of coffee, it's not going to be perfect. People were actually harvesting and doing that coffee, right? So you have to realize that that's really what you're working with when you come to this stuff. So what's important? What's important to you as a coffee buyer? to me. Fragrance, no. Flavor. Flavor is extremely important. So ask the roaster or the cafe, how does this coffee taste? Okay. Aftertaste. Does it linger or does it just like end? Does it stop? Ask them about the aftertaste. Ask them about the quality or the taste of the aftertaste. Most of the time they're going to say it's good. They really are. But that helps you out to gauge what that person may be saying and all that stuff. So ask them about the aftertaste. That's extremely important. Acidity. Acidity. How acidic is it? Is it pronounced? Is it not pronounced? Is it like subtle? Is it like intense right in your face? Ask them about the type of acidity. Ask them what type of fruit it is. Because don't get me wrong, think about it. A lot of times when we think about acidity, we think about either a lemon or orange or a grapefruit, but there's acidity in most fruits, like blueberries, my favorite. There's acidity in blueberries. However, the thing about that is that if you're eating blueberries at a non-ripe time, like I am right now in the summertime, is that it sucks. It sucks. It's just sweet. A lot of times in the wintertime, it gets a lot better. The flavors are more developed. It's juicy. It's plump in the mouth. It's acidic, but it also has that sweetness, has a good balance of harmony. That's what we're talking about here. Okay. Body's not important. Balance is important, but you more so be the judge of that. Sweetness is extremely important. How sweet is the coffee? How good is it? Those are some of the things that we're working on and trying to think about. Sweetness of the coffee. What does that truly really mean? And if you like a coffee that's more sweet than acidic, that may be fine. Ask them about that. Ask them if the coffee is more sweet than acidic or more acidic than sweetness. Ask them to give you that percentage that they think that it is. Even if they say 50-50, take that with a grain of salt because 50-50 doesn't mean that it's balanced. Okay. Clean cup. I mean, no, don't care about that. Uniformity. Sure. You ask them about uniformity, but you don't really have to. So at the end of the day, flavor, aftertaste, acidity, sweetness are the most critical things here. So think about those. I'm not saying don't think about the other ones too. That may be extremely important to you after you drink the coffee for a while and you start saying that you want it. But again, I think a lot of that other stuff you can kind of manipulate in the brew. And defects, they mostly found a way to either work around them or got rid of them, so to speak. But those are the key things here. Fragrance, not important. Flavor, aftertaste, acidity, and sweetness. I think those four things are the critical things here. So that's what I got for you. Let me know what you think. This is just more so like my take on the cupping protocol and why I don't really care for it. However, again, at the end of the day, what's the value to you? What do you care about? And what I think from the attributes of the way a coffee is scored through cupping, not tasting, is extremely important to you and why it's important to you. Because again, at the end of the day, it's your money. You just want pleasure from coffee. So talk to you later. Bye.